he hunts the biggest of all game, public enemies who try to destroy our America.
Welcome back, my fellow patriots. This is the next edition of the Saving Our America show. I am Shawn O'Neill, your common sense host, and my co-host, noted author and journalist, documentary and podcast producer, private investigator, and host of my all-time favorite podcast called A Cigar on the Deck. What's going on, Randy Wyles?
You're common sense now, is that it? Whatever happened to low-life Neanderthal knuckle-dragging, what was it, the despicable that Hillary deemed us?
I have been your ever-vigilant, deplorable Neanderthal host. I figured it was time to change
that's
it up,
right.
I am.
I was going to do a podcast called In a Deplorable State, because, I was doing a cigar on the deck, and I tried to keep that kind of light.
Yeah.
Kind of happy, good stories. And it started getting a little political, and I stopped because I didn't like me when I was doing that, because it was not true to what that was. And my son, Christopher, who produces our show, as a matter of fact, told me, because we were talking about it, and he goes, well, a podcast, a short one called In a Deplorable State has a great double entendre because of the state of the country, and then what Hillary had to say about everyone who's like us. And what's amazing about that? You say that to a liberal, you say something that's all encompassing about everyone like them, and they get all huffy. Mm-hmm. They get all, you can't do that. That's a generalization. That's all encompassing global remark. But when Hillary says they're a basket full of deplorables, we embrace it.
Yeah, we wear it as a badge of honor, Randy.
Yeah, we don't worry about that, because if Hillary thinks that we're deplorable, I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So, it's another beautiful morning. Got my Black Rifle coffee here. This is good stuff. And got another Oliva protege, and got my dog. And living in free America in Tennessee, overlooking the Tennessee Valley. And it's just, once again, it's another season now, and I like them all. It doesn't matter what they are, winter, spring, summer, fall. They're great.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you on that one there, Randy. I mean, I am really no fan of summertime because I can only take off so many clothes without getting in trouble. I love the wintertime. I love the fall. I love the spring, but it seems like the older I get, Randy, the less capable my body is of regulating extreme heat.
Well, make no mistake, as George W. used to say, make no mistake. It does get warm in the summertime in Tennessee, but we're up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. And it's not like when I grew up on the Texas coast. You want to talk about miserable, and I love Texas. But they're on the coast where every day in the summer was the same. It was 95 degrees, 98% relative humidity, and a 20% chance of rain. That was the forecast from about the end of April until about, the start of hurricane season in November.
Yeah, I mean, if money was no option, I would summer in like Alaska or somewhere like Maine. And then in the wintertime, I would spend that in either Texas or Florida.
I used to say the same exact thing, exactly the same thing. Alaska would be great for the summer, or Maine. Maine is a beautiful place.
Oh yeah.
Texas and Florida, I don't know. Florida is a great place, but I don't know. I thought I enjoyed the Texas coast better than the Florida coast. That's just me. But having said that, I think here in Tennessee, I've hit it. I've hit the I've hit the sweet spot of the golf ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest with you. I really love the Georgia coast, especially down there by Savannah, because the water.
Oh my God, I was never so hot in my life than in Savannah in August.
But I mean, you can get in that Atlantic Ocean, and it is so much. I mean, I'm talking like Jekyll Island or, Cumberland or somewhere like that. Somewhere you can get in the Atlantic Ocean. I love the Gulf, but it's like getting in a bathtub in the summertime. It's that water is tepid. It's tepid water. I don't like tepid water.
Well, that's why hurricanes breed so well in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, they hit that warm water and it's Katie bar the door, man. I mean, look, every time we watched hurricanes, that was a way of life down there. And you see that thing come across between, Cuba and Florida. And if it had any kind of hesitation and started stirring around for a while in the middle of the Gulf, it's not going to be pleasant. It had better either come straight through and not have time to mature, or it better duck back and go the other way out to the Atlantic. Because if it sits there long enough in the Gulf in that warm water, Katrina, Rita, all those, Carla, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you spoke about Savannah. Did you see that they found some Revolutionary War British ship? They found some of their cannons. They found like 20 cannons down there while they were doing the Savannah River project to dredge that river out, making it so they could be deeper, so bigger ships can come in and out of the Georgia port.
Yeah, was that not the coolest thing? I'd love to see those cannons.
I would too. And you always joke about Navy coffee. I bet you they could get that incrustations off with Navy coffee.
You may have a point, man. Let's get some of that diesel fuel they call Navy coffee.
Exactly.
And take off some of that incrustated, 2.5 centuries off of those cannon.
And can you imagine? I mean, being the guys that dredge those up. I mean, that would be just amazing. I mean, because these things, we're not talking about one, we're not talking about 2 cannons. We're talking about like 20 cannons that they found from ships that were scuttled by the British in they estimated it was around 1779. I mean, but
yeah, because it was the siege of Savannah.
Yeah,
and the Brits were laying it to them, and so they had a lot of their ships in the line there. And at the time, man, that was state of the art. I mean, the Brits and the Spaniards and even the French, but especially Great Britain, man, those were some bad mojos on those vessels.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them once they get them cleaned up and return to like some kind of at least museum quality. I mean, that will be really exciting to see that, because, I am a student of history. I love all that stuff. I love all of that stuff, especially surrounding the Revolutionary War, and to be able to put my hands on that kind of history, that would just be awesome.
Yeah, I'm the same way, especially nautical. I got an opportunity to talk with Captain Ballard, the man who found the Titanic, and they had a few things, and he was very much into leaving things alone, because there are, 1,700 souls that died or something like that. Yeah. And, it's like the Arizona at Pearl Harbor. You don't disturb it. That is the final resting place of all those sailors who died on December 7th, 1941. And he was that way with the Titanic, but there have been people since that have, brought some things up and have restored them to, they're all on display and that type of thing. And I kind of agree with him. I mean, it's cool to see, but
yeah,
come on,
Well, speaking of, they found back in 2015, they found the Confederate ironclad ship, the CSS Georgia, right there out there in that same channel.
Yes. Yeah. They found the first submarine, the Confederates, and that was, you imagine being in that little cigar tube and they're hand cranking, and then there's that realization that you're not coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just unbelievable.
I don't like submarines anyway, but I mean, to be in one that small, no. Negative goes right.
I've been on board some of the World War II class submarines, what were they, the Wolf class submarines. If you have claustrophobia, you're not made for that. You're not made for that if you have claustrophobia now. And these are some nicer nuclear subs that you got a little bit more space to them, but not much.
Oh yeah. Now the big nuclear boomer class submarines, the lot like the Los Angeles class, they're huge compared to the ones in World War II. I mean,
but they're packed with everything.
Yes,
you're still tight.
Yeah, because they may have to stay down there for 6 months, so therefore they keep enough food on there for 6 months because they don't even have to come up for air anymore. They can, they have.
See, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, I got to see the sun. I got to see the sun more often than that. I
got to know I can go outside, and
exactly,
it's kind of hard to go outside when you're several miles under the ocean. But that's why I couldn't do that. But that's the movie Hunt for Red October. I talked to some of these guys that were in the submarine corps. They're like, no, all that it's all nice, roomy, dramatic lighting, and the lighting is such, but no, it's not all that. No, and especially on the Russian subs, you want to talk about austere. They are.
Well, I mean, it's just I've had the opportunity to get inside of T-34 tanks. It's the same way inside of a T-34 tank. They were not built for pleasure. They were built to kill people with. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. You're inside of a gun, and a big gun. And that's the same thing with the submarine. You're inside of a giant gun that goes underwater. And back in World War II, they had to come up for air because they had to recharge batteries and so forth. So at least you had that. You knew at some point in time you're probably going to get up, and if there are no Japanese around, you're going to get some deck time, something, get a little fresh air, move around a little bit. But this nuclear age where you're down there for 6 months,
artificial.
Man, I can't do that.
I mean, you get artificial light to get your vitamin D down there. I mean, I've got a buddy I went to high school with. He is he's a big time submarine captain, and he loves it. I mean, but I couldn't do it. So
no, it's like space travel. I've met some of the moonwalkers, and that literally was a tin can. But I can't do that.
It would be easier to do space flight because at least you got some little windows you can look out and see some things that 99% of the people never get to see, at least.
Well, yeah, and you do have that. Part of the thing about claustrophobia being if you can't see that there's any more space to move around in or air to breathe, but still, man, that I don't know if you've ever been on one of those 60s Apollo or Gemini mock-ups or whatever. It's like the B-29 bombers, the B-17s. You don't realize you get on board, and you're closing the hatch, and then you look back and there's a little gap there because, well, that's how aluminum is. Sometimes it just doesn't seal up. That's why those guys wore those real thick jackets because of the temperature. And that big window on the side is wide open for that big 50 cal so they can shoot Germans with. That there was nothing. You could literally step through the skin of one of those planes. That's why you had to walk on the spine.
Yeah, I mean, there's portions like going to that rear gun. You had to actually like lay down on your belly and basically crawl into that other gun. Yeah.
I mean, these guys fought wars in less than ideal. This is not some kind of Star Wars looking kind of everybody's cool, got a big throne for a seat to sit in and coffee brought to you by an ensign in a short mini skirt like Captain Kirk's crew and all that.
Yeah.
That isn't it at all. No, it's serious business, and it can get even more serious real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you now, because the one of the planes, the squadrons that I served on in the Navy, to get to the lower lobe of the aircraft to inspect and repair anything electrical, you basically had to just lay down on your back and crawl into something that was barely 18, 19 inches deep. And get in there and work. You had to get in there and work on that. And if you were claustrophobic, you were screwed.
Well, and the belly gunners on those planes, and they get, you had cases where guys would get jammed in there, couldn't get out,
Mm-hmm.
and that plane's got to land,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no landing gear because the landing gear got shot out.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, there's no way,
Oh yeah.
That's why whenever people go, oh yeah, World War II, big deal. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was a big daggum deal, for real.
No kidding. A lot of people suffered in a lot of ways so that you have the freedom to sit there in your, gaming chair with your, 3 monitors and a handheld device and play video games because you've been on the planet 15 minutes and you think that this is the most important thing in the world. There were actually guys. I saw a meme the other day, and it was a picture from Vietnam era of the Hueys dropping off soldiers into the the rice fields and and it said, that old guy that you see in town, he's hunched over, maybe he has a walker, and he's kind of mumbling, and he has a Vietnam vet hat on. That guy at one point in time was a bad.
Mm-hmm. And he's
it's
still,
true.
Even at 60, 70 years old, he's still more of a badass than you'll ever be, folks. And that's these. Speaking of this generation coming up now,
you're right.
So, but speaking of really important things, folks, we need y'all's help. We need you, as our listener, to go to our Patreon page and drop us a few dollars. And you can find us at patreon.com/SOA radio show. And you can either sign up for a subscription, or you can just do a one-time payment, or you can, however you want to do it. We need this because we are trying to grow this show into something just huge and make it
even bigger than it is now.
Yes.
And it's getting big now.
Yes.
But it costs money. It does cost money.
And
we got some cool swag. We have some swag, right?
We do. We have hats and patches from a loyalty patch. We're going to have y'all have the option to get a shoulder bag as part of one of the swag packages. Randy and I talked to y'all about the packages where we're going to offer a dinner meal with Randy and I, and cigars and coffee and things like that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different things.
Look, we like having fun with this, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what the main objective here is. We have fun, and we like cigars. We like to eat. We like to eat good and at good places.
Yes.
So if you want to be somebody who really, really gets into that, wants our undivided attention for a while, and sit down and have a good cigar and maybe one of the best meals you've ever had, let us know about it. We can arrange. Now, that's a little bit costly, but if you've got that kind of cash that you want to do that, you don't care.
Yeah.
You just you're in for the experience of a fine meal and a great cigar, which will get you the cigar, baby. That's part of the deal. Yeah. And the meal.
And I promise you, it won't be some cheap Garcia Vega cigar. It'll be a good cigar.
No, it will. Cheap Garcia Vega. No, we're talking serious, a serious stick here that you'll like, because that's what I'm doing right now. I've got a cigar and some Black Rifle coffee, and we're sitting there having a great conversation. But you can join us one-on-one. You can even bring a guest.
Yes. Yep. And if you have any inkling to do that, you can contact us at either one of our two email addresses, and I'll give that to you when we come back from break.
This is our history.
December 7th, 1941.
This is our America.
A date which will live in infamy.
Saving Our America with Shawn O'Neill.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
I've been a musician most of my life, but recently I decided to add a new instrument to my musical knowledge. I don't do big box music stores, so I was happy when I found B2K Music in Carrollton. Their friendliness and selection won me over on my first visit, and they are now my official music supplier. The owners of B2K Music are America-loving patriots, and they do a lot to give back to their community. I was a customer of B2K long before they became an advertiser on Saving Our America. Stop by and check out their wide selection of guitars, amps, drums, and just about any accessory you need to go with it. They also provide instruction, instrument rental, and they can take care of all your repair and service needs as they are certified luthiers and musical electronic technicians. You can find them at 490F, Bankhead Highway in Carrollton. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday, 11 to 4. Y'all stop by and see the folks at B2K Music and tell them Shawn O'Neal sent you.
How does a premium cigar sound right about now? Sounds really good, doesn't it? The Cigar Merchant on Nesbitt Ferry Road in Johns Creek has you covered. They are your source for premium cigars and smoking accessories. They carry an extensive line of premium, major, and boutique brands of cigars such as Rocky Patel, Padron, Arturo Fuente, and so much more. Located at 9850 Nesbitt Ferry Road in Johns Creek, 770-552-1942 is their number. Tell them you heard their ad on fistfulofradio.com. The Cigar Merchant, 770-552-1942, or on the web at thecigarmerchant.com.
I was born, a shotgun in my hands, behind the gun, I'll make my final stand, yeah, and that's why they call me Bad Company, I can't deny. Bad Company, till the day I die, until the day I die.
And we're back to the Saving Our America show. I'm Shawn O'Neal. On the other side of the microphone is Randy Wyles and Kevin McCarthy. He is just another two-faced rat bastard, and he cannot be allowed to keep his job in the GOP leadership because after the January 6th debacle, he was on a private phone call and he literally stabbed President Trump in the back, Randy.
Yeah, I heard about this. And my first comment, in fact, I heard the audio, and my first thought was, and? As in, it's politics. This is like standard issue politics. Play the audio where he's talking with Liz Cheney, and there you go. People wonder why. How did CNN, or there was like 3 or 4 outlets that got this. Yeah. How did they get this? Let me tell you something. Liz Cheney was talking to him on a recorded line. Liz Cheney is anything but a conservative, so there you are. But play that audio.
All right, here it is.
Have all the information needed. I've had it with this guy. What he did is unacceptable. Nobody can defend that, and nobody should defend it.
Okay, so...
And that, to me, is unacceptable.
Now, I want to tell you, here's why I think that was Liz Cheney that gave that audio up. I've done a lot of investigations. I spent my career in radio and television. If you'll notice the difference in the audio, his is obviously over a phone. Hers is over a microphone. She is in a situation where she is in control of the audio.
But see, one has to ask, Randy, Washington, D.C. has some of the most restrictive phone call recording laws in America. So we have to ask ourselves, whoever did this audio, did they break any laws when they did it?
You're right. And I don't know what DC, or here's the other thing to consider. You're right. There is something called a one-party state, a two-party state. We're not talking politics. In a one-party state, like in Georgia, for example, and in most places, actually, if I'm on a recorded line with you, I can release that audio because only one of us has to be aware that it's being recorded. Mm-hmm. In a two-party state, both parties or all parties have to be aware that it's recorded. That's why you'll hear that beep every once in a while. Some people will do that. That is so everyone knows we're being recorded. Now, I don't know right off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up because I don't keep that knowledge in my head until I need it. What DC law is, or what Virginia law is, if they were over in Virginia, or if Liz was back home, all those factors come into play. But I think that Liz gave that audio up, and that would be because Liz is not a conservative, and she wanted to bring Kevin McCarthy down. And she got him into a conversation and got him to admit his true feelings.
I honestly think this is payback because, McCarthy took her off of a bunch of different things that she was.
Yes.
The different, what do they call those, Randy? My brain just took a dump on me.
The committees.
Committees, thank you. All the things she sits on. And I think this was payback, Randy. And
yes.
If it can be proven that she did this in a two-party state, I say hang her from the tallest tree.
Yeah, but that's a very on the one hand it's very real. On the other hand, it's very hard to prove, but it can be proven. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but
because
in the big picture, in the big picture, it really doesn't matter because there's more damage done by the recording than by the breaking of a local law like that.
But with slimy SOBs like Kevin McCarthy and Liz Cheney, why do we even need the Dems?
Well, now let me ask you something. Your opinion. Did you think that way of McCarthy before you heard this audio?
I'll be honest with you. I did not trust him almost from the get-go because if for nothing else, Randy, because he's from California and there's nothing decent come out of California except for I-20 or I-10 and I-20 ever in California.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I will tell you, I kind of feel the same way all along about him, but this is nothing new. This is politics on a daily basis. Stab people in the back. I mean, Shakespeare wrote Julius Caesar. He wasn't off the mark. I mean, come on. This is what senators and representatives do to each other. I mean, they've started using, it's like the Peter Pan movie where Robin Williams plays the grown-up Peter Pan turned lawyer, and he tells the group that they're now using lawyers instead of white mice in research. Well, they're now using congressmen and women instead of white mice in research for the same reason. There are just some things mice won't do to each other.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I was just thinking in my head, A2 Brute, because I mean,
well, I don't think it was quite that noble. We're talking about Liz Cheney and Kevin McCarthy. It's not exactly Brutus and Caesar, right?
But you know what? People like Kevin McCarthy and Liz Cheney are exactly why the GOP is in the mess that it's in right now.
Look, people like Kevin McCarthy and Liz Cheney are exactly the reason why, along with the Democrats, that the country is in the shape it's in right now. You know what I mean?
Amen. I mean, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I mean,
but this has been going on since the country was founded in one form or fashion, in one phase or another, in one election cycle or the other for 250 years. I mean, we've just been doing this.
But in the case of Kevin McCarthy, Randy, it makes me more angry. Not the fact that he did it, that he said it on the recording was the fact that when he was confronted with it, that he lied about it. Same with Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton was asked and he denied getting Monica Lewinsky to play his piano, he lied about
it. I'm sorry, I never heard that one. I've heard a few things, but not that one. But look, what are you talking about? Politicians. If their mouth is moving, they're lying. And here's the other side. Donald Trump was an outsider to both parties. Ironically, the guy who gave money as businessman Donald Trump to both parties, as many corporations do because it supports the election system, he became an outsider to both parties because the libtards hated him because he was a mean guy and he had mean tweets and stuff, even though they loved him on The Apprentice and SNL and all that. And the GOP members that hated him because he was getting things done. He had people behind him, and they've been there for half a century and couldn't get anything done.
But this same man, after this conversation, after this point of what I played y'all the tape of, he was advocating at that time to get that Donald Trump needed to be removed from all social media, and anyone that had backed him that was trying to prove that the 2020 elections were stolen, he wanted them removed from all social media. So my question is who gets to decide who has free speech on social media? I mean, do we listen to the likes of Kevin McCarthy, or do we listen to Obama, or do we listen to Joe Biden or George Soros? I mean, who gets to decide?
Oh, come on.
Who has free speech?
Come on. You're oh my God, you cannot be that naive. We all know the answer, and I know you're not that naive. We all know the answer to that, and the answer is that place was built on a swamp, and it still stinks. That's the answer. You know, the Constitution says you have the right to free speech, period. These guys don't like it if your right to free speech messes with their little fiefdom.
Yeah,
and that's both parties. Anybody who is a politician, they're going to do it to save their butt. That line from The Hunt for Red October about I'm a politician. If I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops. It's true, and you know that.
I do, and it's a rhetorical statement, Randy, but the fact is, we've got to, at the same time that this audio had come to light, we've got Obama standing up in front of a crowd of people talking, saying, basically, Randy, he went full on Stalin because he wants the government to have control over social media and allow, you got to be allowed to speak. I mean, you know as well as I do that social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those, that is the new public square. And you just like you can't deny someone standing on the square of your as long as they're being peaceful, you cannot deny them the ability to speak their mind. You should not be able to allow to deny people the right to speak on these platforms.
I can tell you're upset because you're stumbling, and I don't blame you. I mean, I don't blame you. Here's the difference. Here is the difference. There was the original town square.
Yes.
But nowadays, the people that own the soapbox are the ones in charge. They own the soapbox that you can stand on in the town square. They're the ones in charge. Doesn't make it right. I'm just telling you how life is. Politicians are also catering to the people who own the soap boxes, and guess who gets the use of the soap box first? The politician.
Well, you know, the reason it makes me angry is because they designed this. You and I have talked about this. You know, the reason Mark Zuckerberg set up Facebook was to make money, but he knew that one day he would get the apparatchik of the government to help him silence anyone who stood against him.
Only if the government was the government he was in favor of.
Exactly.
That's the problem. I'm telling you, it's just, this goes back to the founding of this country. We've had this kind of thing go on. I think probably it's sad. I've said this before. I think I said this just the other day. We teach our kids, and we all learned in grade school, that this bunch of really great guys got together and they decided to defy a king and do what's right and have a revolution and form a country that we all live in and love. Okay, that's the elementary school version, because that's kind of what a kid understands. It's pretty basic. And then as you get a little older, you start finding out that, wow, this revolution was pretty brutal, man. It was pretty bloody, and we almost lost several times. And then you get into college, and it's, wow, these guys were okay and everything, but, they did have slaves, some of them, and therefore that should mark who they are forever and everything they ever did. And then you get into the real world and you realize these guys had agendas. They were great forward-thinking people. People like Franklin, Jefferson, Adams. They were fine, upstanding, forward-thinking people. George Washington, even the Marquis de Lafayette, who came over and became probably the greatest American hero who wasn't an American, But the thing is, they had agendas, and in some cases, the agenda was self-serving, and in some cases, it was for the greater good. Because why? They're human. Now, fortunately for us, most of them were looking at the greater good. Our problem is we now have guys and women who aren't concerned about the greater good whatsoever at all, couldn't care less. That's the problem.
Well, the reason that I get so angry and it just makes my blood boil is because I know, like myself, hundreds of thousands of other men and women in this country have signed their name to a blank check, went off and died in foreign fields and foreign towns to protect our right to free speech, no matter where it happens to be located, whether it's standing on the public square in downtown Carrollton or downtown Atlanta or in the town that you live in Tennessee, or whether it's Twitter and Facebook. Because, Randy, I found an article while I was researching this topic here that CBS, and this, let me throw you this here for CBS said back in 2012 that the CIA was censoring social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. And let me tell you, I found this article from CBS, and before I could print it off, it had disappeared off the internet.
Now you sound like you're wearing a tinfoil hat, boy.
Well,
but it's true, isn't it? It's true. That's the difference. It's true.
But for Karen, listen, before you start sending me letters about tinfoil hats, I happened to screenshot this article before it disappeared. And guess what, Randy? It came back 24 hours later, and it was not the same article.
You're right. So absolutely right. And nothing surprises me anymore, including that.
That is straight up what you talked about when you were first in journalism, yellow journalism. That is pure and tea yellow journalism.
Yeah, you're right. We go through these periods of time. In fact, that's where the term yellow journalism came from. We were in a period where the cheap newspapers, but they were prevalent, like Randolph Hearst Empire. They used cheaper paper and it had a yellow tint to it, but they published anything. Don't let the facts stand in the way of a good story. And then it became yellow journalism, and you were taught in J school, don't do that. I don't know what they're teaching them now, because I don't see that standard being adhered to of don't do that. What I see is anything goes, make it up if you have to. And I worked in the business for more than 45 years.
And I'm going to tell you, as long as we have people like CNN, MSNBC, and the other mainstream medias who think that the conversation can only be one-sided, we are doomed in this country. But remember this. This is the same Kevin McCarthy, Randy, that recently said that he hasn't seen anything that Joe Biden needs to be impeached for. We'll be right back.
This is our history.
But only here evolved the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny.
This is our America.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Saving Our America with Shawn O'Neal.
Have you been to a big box jewelry store lately? Overpriced jewelry, fake sales, pushy, snobby salespeople. Well, I found a great alternative. It's Wyles Jewelry in Carrollton. The owner, Chuck Wyles, is a personal friend of mine, and you won't find any of those things that I mentioned at Wyles Jewelry. Chuck will treat you the same whether you're there to get a watch repaired or buy a $10,000 ring. He'll help you find just the right piece for whatever occasion. Go by and check out Wyles Jewelry. It's located at 203 Adamson Square, right in downtown Carrollton. Tell him Shawn O'Neal sent you.
Introducing Habersham Home Management Solutions, a concierge service solutions company to help you with the management, maintenance, and operation of your home. Handyman services available, landscape design and installation, junk removal, and so much more. Our concierge services can also help you prep your home for sale with home improvements that will save you time, money, and will add value to your home. You can trust the team at Habersham Home Management Solutions to exceed your expectations. Their number, 770-616-5979. 770-616-5979. Habersham Home Management Solutions.
Are you looking for the best Irish dining experience in Georgia? Well, it's right here at Daddy O'Brien's. This place looks like it's right out of old country Ireland. Come by and try all of their authentic Irish cuisine. They've got Guinness Irish stew, shepherd's pie, bangers and mash, their famous clam chowder, or maybe try one of their awesome Reubens. And that's just to name a few. They've got scrumptious chocolate cake and 35 flavors of alcohol-infused ice cream. But don't wait for St. Patty's Day. They're located at 5910 Swanee Dam Road in Sugar Hill. Stop by today and tell them Shawn O'Neal sent you. And we're back to the Saving Our America show. I'm Shawn O'Neal. On the other side of the microphone is Randy Wyles. And there are just some articles, some authors and writers that seem to have a sixth sense about future events. Take, for example, Richard Condon, when he wrote The Manchurian Candidate. That was prophetical, Randy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are guys like that. Orwell, when he did, Animal Farm and Big Brother, these guys. I'll tell you a modern one. Tom Clancy.
Oh yeah.
I'm reading. Let's see, what was it? Cardinal in the Kremlin, and the stuff is going down with the fall of the, as we knew it, Soviet Union. I'm sitting there reading the book and watching CNN and Fox and all these networks cover this happening and thinking, how did this guy, because it takes time to publish a book, but these guys, I know Clancy had a lot of people he was well tied into. He had a lot of sources. I think I told you about, I talked with Oliver North, Colonel Oliver, Lieutenant Colonel. Well, they made him a colonel right before he resigned. Not resigned, I should say, retired. They wanted him to resign. Somebody did. But he didn't. He retired with honor. Colonel Oliver North. And we were chatting, and I said, I swear, you're Jack Ryan. And he kind of looked at me and goes, Tom Clancy writes good fiction. I said, yeah. But you guys live up in that same part of the country. I know that you know the same people. Something tells me you've talked a few times. You are Jack Ryan. He never would deny it. He would just say, well, Tom writes good fiction.
Now, isn't he the same author that wrote the story that involved the predictions about COVID-19 before it ever came out?
No, I never read anything that he wrote about that.
Okay.
And now I'm not sure that, he passed away, and there have been authors that have picked up the franchise under the auspices of the family approving, and they have to write a certain way and so forth. And I haven't read many of those books because I liked his writing. But Orwell, I mean, it's like that meme we saw where it's a picture of Orwell with a smirk, and somebody's made it a quote. Now, he never said this, but Orwell is looking at the camera with a smirk, and it says, boy, did I nail this or what?
Thank you for Mr. Producer, who he just enlightened me. It was actually Dean Koontz that wrote the book predicting the novel coronavirus back in like 1980 something.
And that's another guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's another and well connected.
Yes.
We've talked about this before. There are people who can put together the big picture. I mean, they look at the world around them and they start thinking, and then they base it on fact, and pretty soon they come up with something, and lo and behold, they've nailed it.
And Randy, I mentioned Richard Condon when he wrote The Manchurian Candidate. I mean, it could have actually been written about either Barack Obama or about Joe Biden, because there's a new poll out right now, Randy, that says 2/3 of Americans think that Joe Biden is compromised to the Chinese.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, if I were in Vegas and you had that, I'd put the chips on red. Yeah, you bet. I think I'd go with that as a fairly, I mean, you get the best you can get is 51, like 49% in your favor at the blackjack table. I'm pretty good at blackjack, but I'd take that bet because I think the probability is even higher, much higher.
I mean, this man was almost Nostradamus-like, Randy, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, he predicted that there would be a U.S. president who would either consciously or unconsciously would betray the entire country to another entity. While I think in the Manchurian Candidate, it was a dark conglomerate of people here in America, but now we've got this president who has sold us down the river to China.
In the original Manchurian Candidate, it was the communist Chinese, and these were soldiers who were captured during the Korean War.
Okay.
And they were brainwashed, and they were set up as sleeper cells, essentially. And whenever they were activated, they would carry out the order they were activated to do. And of course, this one was to assassinate an up-and-coming young presidential candidate that looked like he was going to be, the next president and would not be favorable to the Asians. And that's almost what happened. And you know that they had to hold that movie from release.
Oh, really?
Because it came out, it was supposed to come out right before it turned out John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And it was so parallel in so many people's minds. They held it for, I think, a year or 2 years before they would release it.
Well, I have only seen the original version of that movie one time. So what I'm basing mine on is the more modern day version with Liev Schreiber and
Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that on an airplane one time, and I like the original better, but then that's just me. The remakes are very seldom as good, I think.
Trust me, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, most remakes don't ever stand up to the original, but
well, they change it a little bit, and they try to use some new technology and techniques and special effecting, and that one where he had the little capsule, the little thing opened up under his skin, and he discovers it. I don't know. However, the whole concept, the entire concept is spooky.
I mean, how else would you explain, Randy, that for Joe Biden basically slamming the door on American energy independence. I mean, he has overturned everything that Donald Trump put into place to try to put China back in check, and he has undone everything in the first 2 weeks of his presidency.
Sure, of course he did. He did it for money, and the rest of it, I don't think he was aware that he did, because he has dementia.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. That's why, the bag man was his son, because there's just some things a guy with dementia can't carry out, especially if you've got a camera on you 24/7.
Mm-hmm. And even worse than that, Randy, I during my research, I found that Joe Biden has basically left the back door to the U.S. Patent Office wide open, and left the computers on for China to come in and do whatever they want to, because he has lessened the levels of protections over intellectual property in America to the point where China's going to be able to steal even more than they were doing before Trump came into office.
Oh yeah, and they were expert at it. Then China and the Russians, they could hack with the cheapest computers of. The Russians were great, have always been great at that, but they got to make it an art form of how they could hack into systems here using old generation computers that we threw away in this country, and yet their guys would go in, reconfigure a few things, and the next thing you know, they're in the financial institutions, they're into the major companies in America. The Chinese are just flat out stealing. Everyone remembers when they stole all of that intellectual property from Sony. That was a huge deal.
And it made me remember a History Channel biography that I saw back 20 years ago that was talking about when the Russians during World War II, that they actually stole 3 or 4 of our B-29 bombers and then reverse engineered them and turned them into Tu-4s, because at the time the B-29 was the biggest, most technological advanced bomber that was in the world, and they allowed them to just basically re-engineer it and make it into their own bombers.
Well, and that kind of stuff's been going on. In fact, the Russians kind of fell behind, because we got most of the German scientists, like Werner von Braun and all that bunch, in Operation Paperclip, and they got some, and they weren't as effective at stealing. So for a while, that's why you remember, you were in the Navy, you'd see surveillance video of the Russian bombers, and they kept those old B-29 mock-up, things flying forever. We were way ahead of them on that type of thing.
If I remember correctly, those were called the backfire bombers. If I'm not mistaken, that was the name that we gave them, the backfire.
Yeah. And the thing was, why? Because like the B-52, for example, it has a cannon in the back with a lone gunman. It's a, what is that? Is that a 50? I can't remember what that is, but it's a rapid fire cannon.
I think it's a Ma-Deuce, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I was embedded with the Air Force for a while on some various stories, and they had a B-52. They had 2 of them, I think. And the B-52s under the pilot cockpit window had a Russian star. And I said, that looks like, what they used to do like in World War II. When you shoot down an enemy plane, the pilot gets like back then, they would get the Japanese Rising Sun, and however many they shot down, that's what they got. And the public information officer said, yeah, you're right. This aircraft shot down a Russian MiG over Vietnam. And I said, how in the hell did that happen? And he said, well, in the case of this one and the other one, the North Vietnamese were flying MiGs. And the MiG got close. And they knew it. We have great technology. So he woke up the rear gunner, because the guy basically, and he said, hey, you got a bogey coming in. So the guy waits until it's within the range of the cannon, and he squeezes off around, pops him out of the air, and that's a dead duck. And so they get a Russian star. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of, I think it was 2 B-52s that had shot down MiGs.
I mean, it amazes me, though, Randy, that China was one of the first countries that we lifted the travel ban to, even though that was the epicenter of the COVID-19 virus. They were one of the first countries that we lifted bans to. So you can't tell me.
I wonder why that was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, it too many things, you know, I hate to sound like I'm a tinfoil hat wearing, you know, idiot. But when the things start lining up, Randy, you can't call it tinfoil hat stuff anymore. Too many things that can just happen at random don't just happen at random. And
well, all right, think about that. You had that in China. What happened in Russia? You got Putin. He's already taken Crimea. What did he do? He walks right into the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Now, that didn't happen with Donald Trump because he knew he'd have his butt handed to him. But it did under this guy. The thing that Putin didn't count on were the Ukrainian people themselves.
And a lot of people don't know this, Randy. Do you know for the last 18 months that China and Russia have been buying up tons of gold? So people think that this stuff is going on, you know, us sanctioning Russia and China is having an effect on the yuan and the ruble. It's really not. Even if we do take it down a notch, they'll still be back because their currency is backed by gold. But see, Joe Biden, he basically took America out of the seat of driving the world economy and put Putin and Xi Jinping in the driver's seat to do whatever they wanted to do, whether it was destroy the dollar or whether it was to control the world economy.
Or destroy an election. And that's exactly what happened. The Chinese had this as part of a plan forever. This has been part of their 100-year marathon. Go ahead, Karen. Please send me an email at Randy Wyles. That's randy.wyles at soaradioshow.com and tell me I'm wrong. And I'll give you the publications that point out by the experts, this is a 100-year plan by the Communist Chinese Party, and they are dead on track to taking over.
And did you know, folks, that China owns over 192,000 acres of American farmland? Do you know, folks?
Yeah, that's where we grow our food, people.
Do you know that China currently owns $1 trillion in American debt? So you could basically say that China owns America.
Yeah, they're not far from it.
And a lot of people would be surprised to know how many blue chip stocks that China owns companies that they own a controlling stake in. How about General Electric? How about Smithfield Foods? Did you know that?
Yep.
They own a control.
That's why I don't buy Smithfield right there. That's the reason.
Did you know they own a controlling stake in IBM?
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that. I didn't know that one, but I'm not the least bit surprised.
General Motors?
And that's why that's one of two reasons. I don't buy a General Motors vehicle ever again. I own Ford.
Microsoft?
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. Microsoft is made up of a bunch of libtard, leftist socialists.
They own a large stake in Tesla.
It doesn't work the other way.
No, you can't go to China and buy anything.
You can't do it.
No.
You can't, because in China, they own half of whatever you are. You're a mom and pop business or you're a corporation. The Communist Chinese Party owns half. Now they give you incentives and they do blah, 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 but they own half of it. They're not a true communist nation.
No.
They're a socialist, capitalist, communist nation.
So this is my real question for this whole line of thinking, Randy. Is the reason why the Biden family seems to be sold out to the country of China? Is it purely a business transaction, or is it something that they have so dark on the Biden family that they cannot afford to let it get out, Randy? That's what I want to know.
I don't think it's that noble. I think it's purely a business transaction. I really do.
And you know what that means? And then if that's true, then every member of the Biden family that's involved in this needs to never see the light of day from a prison, from the deepest, darkest prison cell they can be put in, and never see the light of day.
That's true.
And folks, if you get a chance, go over to our Saving Our America page on Patreon. Leave us a couple dollars. It's called SOA Radio Show. You know, help us grow this into something even better than what it is right now. And do us a favor. Go to our sponsors and give them some patronage on like Loyalty Patch. I mean, this is a great American-owned, American-loving company, and they do a lot for this country. They do a lot for the Saving Our America show, and we love them.
And that's the key here. First of all, we're not going to be sending any money to China. And second, we support American businesses. And if you're going to do business with somebody, whether it's, Loyalty Patch or Wyles or any of these guys, why don't you do a business with somebody who loves this country? We pick our sponsors, we talk with them, and if they're not what we think are America-loving businesses, they don't advertise here. So we don't do it.
That's right. And folks, if you missed out on any part of the show today, you can catch us on pretty much wherever you get your podcast at. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Y'all come back tomorrow. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God make us please bless the USA.
Produced by S&S Sound Productions. To take your audio to the next level, contact us on Facebook at S&S Sound Productions. Life's a soundtrack. Let's record it.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
How does a premium cigar sound right about now? Sounds really good, doesn't it? The Cigar Merchant on Nesbitt Ferry Road in Johns Creek has you covered. They are your source for premium cigars and smoking accessories. They carry an extensive line of premium, major, and boutique brands of cigars such as Rocky Patel, Padron, Arturo Fuente, and so much more. Located at 9850 Nesbitt Ferry Road in Johns Creek, 770-552-1942 is their number. Tell them you heard their ad on fistfulofradio.com. The Cigar Merchant, 770-552-1942, or on the web at thecigarmerchant.com.
This is your Pod Blast crew, Al Hardy, Tom Williams, and Chance Bartels, inviting you to take a trip down memory lane with the nostalgic Pod Blast, Saturdays and Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m., right here on fistfulofradio.com.
Introducing Habersham Home Management Solutions, a concierge service solutions company to help you with the management, maintenance, and operation of your home. Handyman services available, landscape design and installation, junk removal, and so much more. Our concierge services can also help you prep your home for sale with home improvements that will save you time, money, and will add value to your home. You can trust the team at Habersham Home Management Solutions to exceed your expectations. Their number, 770-616-5979. 770-616-5979. Habersham Home Management Solutions.